that he has Kirill Kaprizov. Any additional update on that 3 to 4 week lower body injury to Mr. Kaprizov?
No real update. I mean, talking to Dean Evison throughout Dean Evison's tenure in Minnesota, I figured we weren't in store for a really big update today. But it does sound like at least optimistic, not done for the whole year, right? Like the 3 to 4 week timeline thing, to me, the biggest thing about that is it coincides. So I was thinking like maybe it's just something you push that conversation out till right before playoffs. But talking to guys today, it doesn't seem like this is something that's going to linger much longer than a month. I guess the biggest thing is you don't really know with injuries. He can rehab this thing and maybe tweak it later, and then obviously that timeline gets reset. But I think 3 to 4 weeks was an indication that it's not something that we're shutting him down for the whole year. I think it's something, try and get him ready for the playoffs, take that conversation out of the mix for the next, however many games, because Dean knows every game day Jesse's going to ask, is there any lineup changes? So you don't have to ask that question now. It's decided he's not playing for 3 to 4 weeks. I think this is their way of kind of controlling that message and revisiting this in the playoffs. But everyone we talked to today in the locker room,
nobody's down and gloom.
Yeah, it was actually way more like up than I was expecting. I kind of thought it was going to feel like awake. And Zuccarello said today, we were talking about him, I said, have you talked to Kirill? What are his spirits like? And he's like, he's not dying, I was like,
good news, Kirill Kaprizov not dying.
I think we needed that, i.e. myself, because I was hitting the panic button hard when that came out.
Yeah, he's alive, and he has in fact not dying. So I think that is important perspective too. Like, he is bummed. The team is bummed. The team also is like 10 points clear of the playoff cut line. They're playing some cupcake teams on this road trip. I think we can put St. Louis in like the cupcake team category right now with what they did at the trade deadline. So there's really no worry that they're going to miss the playoffs. I know things can change quickly in the NHL, but get this guy right for three to 4 weeks. Zuccarello said he's going to have a lot of energy for the playoffs, and then see what happens.
I was going to say that 3 to 4 weeks does put him out for the regular season, right? I mean, all things told, because again, you don't want to rush him back. You need him for the playoffs. Is it pretty? I mean, was that ever broached with Dean today? Like, hey, is this meaning? I mean, of course, I know Dean like you do, right? He isn't going to give us, but do you have that sense that it is a regular season no-go for Kirill Kaprizov?
I think so. That wasn't confirmed. I tried to kind of get there with him, and he kind of leaned on. It's like his cliche that he leans on, but it's also true. Like, you don't know how guys are going to respond to their recovery process. But that was my gut when you say 3 to 4 weeks. It's like, let's just not talk about this for 3 to 4 weeks. Let's not speculate game to game. Is he going to be back? Is he not going to be back? So, yeah, I mean, I would be pretty surprised at this point if he plays at any point before the regular season is over. I actually don't see the point of it. I think I get that, like, guys need time, and guys need time to kind of gel with line mates. I think Kirill is kind of an exception to that rule. He's an exception to a lot of rules when it comes to hockey. I don't think it's something where you need to ramp him up and he needs like a bunch of, X amount of games to feel comfortable in the lineup. I think if you can get him healthy for game one, whoever your opponent's going to be, that's just the main goal and really all he needs.
And speaking of other injuries, wondering if you have an update on everyone's favorite Minnesota Wild Taylor Swift fan, Jonas Brodin.
Yeah. Shout out to Broads, because I didn't know he was a Swiftie until that graphic came out.
Same.
I know you're a Swiftie. I'm a Swiftie.
I'm going to take my headset off now, and you guys can do this. It's fine.
Really, you just want to talk about Taylor Swift?
I really do. Yeah. I knew when you were coming here, everyone was going to roll their eyes. That makes them like, me and Dane, we've got this.
Yeah. Broads skated today. Not with the team, but on his own. He is going to come on the road trip. Gustav Nyquist skated today, too, and Brandon Duhaime skated today, too. Jonas Brodin and Gustav Nyquist are going to travel with the team. Brandon Duhaime's going to stay home, it sounds like. Nyquist, I'm pretty sure, is just traveling to get acclimated with his new teammates, to feel comfortable. You get to see the system in person, but you also get to be around the guys, kind of get to know people. I think Broads is coming because he might be able to play at some point. That's just conjecture on my part. That was not talked about today. But when Dean said he was going on the road trip, that was kind of what my instinct says. Like, you don't just bring a guy. Broads knows everyone on the team. He doesn't need to just go hang out with the guys. If he's coming on the trip, I think there is a potential that he plays at some point. But just him getting back on the ice is such a big thing. Shout out to the Wild for kind of stymieing, any worry. I thought when Brodin went down, it was like, oh man, this thing could go sideways really fast. Blue Lines really took care of their business and let him get healthy. They've played well enough where it hasn't been like, we need you to rush back because the sky is falling. They've played well enough that now he can kind of get right, get to 100%. But I think the fact that he's back on his skates is obviously a good sign.
So some bad news with Kaprizov this week, but a glimmer of hope for Wild fans with Brodin potentially returning to the ice sooner than later.
Yeah, and if you want to look at silver linings, you're going to get back. Spurgeon has been really, really good this year, but I think Jonas Brodin's your best defenseman, and you're going to get him back at some point. It's not something that seems like it's going to linger too much longer. If we want to keep staying optimistic, also that Kaprizov, the 3 to 4 weeks thing, it very well could have been like, hey, Kaprizov's done for the year, or hey, Kaprizov's out indefinitely. Mm-hmm. Indefinitely, I think, normally means the year. I think the New York Islanders said indefinitely with Barzal, and he's out for the year.
Yeah.
I think he tore his knee. So, it's not indefinitely. It's 3 to 4 weeks. That's some optimism, too, if you want to hold on to that.
Well, with Brodin, too, obviously they have the addition of John Klingberg since then. Do you see Dean Evason possibly breaking up or separating Broads and Matt Dumba? I mean, that's a pair that has worked so well throughout the years. However, I really like the idea of Brodin helping cover up any defensive mistakes that Klingberg might make. I mean, Bill Guerin went out and got this player because of his offensive potential, and knowing that Klingberg has that knock against him defensively, well, Broads is a guy that helps out with that. Do you think that might be a possibility? Again, it's too early to say, especially with Brodin not officially back, but let's, reckless speculate.
Yeah, I think down the road it's certainly possible. I think the thing with that is, Matt Dumba brings certain elements to the ice, but Jonas Brodin also makes up for a lot of his deficiencies in the defensive zone. I do think Matt Dumba's become a punching bag in this entire market, and he's actually been very, very good for the last month and a half. And I think when a guy kind of garners the reputation that he has of being just kind of the scapegoat whenever anything goes wrong, people have a hard time recognizing when he's playing well. He's playing well right now. Mm-hmm. But I do think the Wild like that combination of Dumba and Brodin. It's been a thing forever.
Yeah.
And it works. So I wouldn't necessarily be stunned if at some point Klingberg's with Brodin. But I don't think that's necessarily something they want to do right now. They feel really good about Dumba and obviously his game. I think when Brodin's ready to come back, you just slide him on there. And Klingberg's been pretty good next to Merrill. In his first, it's a small sample size, couple games, few games, but. I think Anaheim is such a bad team and is not trying to win, actively not trying to win this year.
Poor John Gibson, rescue that man for me.
I know how you feel about that guy. I think anyone's going to look bad there. So I think Klingberg's defensive stats, they were pretty egregious this year, and they weren't very good in Dallas last year. But with the way the Wild play, the structure they play, I think that's going to help make up for a lot of the deficiencies in this game, even before you have to put Brodin alongside him to kind of help with that.
Since I wasn't at the Minnesota Wild practice today to ask my coveted line question for all my hashtag line heathens, and literally that's my one job on game days, Dane. That's all I need. I just need him to tell me the starting.
And to ask Dean lineup changes.
The goaltender. That's all I need. Dean looks at me and gives that shake, and nope, and that's all we get. That's fine. I'm doing my job. That's what they pay me the big bucks for. Long story short, Kirill Kaprizov obviously being out. I believe you tweeted out Sam Steele. Looks like he is now going to be on the top line. How do you think that might go? At this point, he kind of didn't know if he'd ever really see a Sam Steele again playing for the Wild the way that he'd been playing and that's as a healthy scratch. How do you think he might fit in with Hartman and Zuccarello?
I think it's going to be hard for him no matter what happens. He could play the best game of his life, and I think people are going to just inherently compare him to Kirill Kaprizov, which isn't fair to Sam Steele.
Can't probably do that,
yeah,
guys.
So, I think, look, Sam Steele played really well the last time he played. He thrust into the lineup in Calgary after sitting for a month, and I was talking to Wes Walls today before practice, and he was like, I thought Sam Steele was one of the best forwards in that game on the Wild. So give that guy credit for, he can't be happy the last month sitting in the press box watching Bill Guerin acquire more players that continue to push him down the pecking order.
Yep.
But it's a good example of if you just kind of stay with it, your opportunity is going to come. And this is his opportunity. Do I think Sam Steele is going to stick as the first line left wing? No, I don't. I think at some point I could see Marcus Johansson going up there. I could see them trying to play Boldy on the left up there and just kind of loading up one line. If Nyquist is ready, that's something that is way down the road, I think, still. But
yeah,
I think right now you put Sam Steele at left wing because you have points in 11 straight games, and the other three lines are working well. Why screw up all the lines? Why put all the lines in a blender when you have a guy who's been sitting out? I think you put Sam Steele at left wing on the first line, see how it goes for this road trip, and kind of make changes from there. So I don't know. It's going to be. I feel bad for him because he's always going to be like, oh man, he's not playing as well as Kirill. No one's going to play as well as Kirill Kaprizov.
No, I don't think you could compare. Literally, there's not another person on. You can't replicate a Kirill Kaprizov even across the league.
They've tried with Phil and Bill, but no, not Kirill. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Goaltending. Let's talk goaltending. My other favorite subject.
Yeah,
Philip,
you're eating a lot of words this year. Huh?
I know.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
She's
That's
been nice
okay.
to goaltenders as of late.
I have
she
been
wasn't
nice.
very nice earlier.
She's
in the
Philip
year.
Gustafson's biggest fan now.
I'm
I think
sorry.
is fair
Did
to
you
say.
guys think Philip Gustafson was not going to be a backup, a bona fide
We
backup?
just didn't have as strong of words as you did.
Nobody knew what Philip Gustafson was capable of. Bill Guerin admitted he didn't know what Philip Gustafson was capable of. Dane, did you know what Philip Gustafson was capable of?
No,
Thank you.
I did not. I was not as forthcoming about my opinions as Jesse.
Very few are,
but no, I mean this has been a stunning development with what he's kind of done, and just like he hasn't just been good; he's been legitimately like the best goaltender in the league for since November. Linus Ullmark, obviously in Boston, but he plays in front of the way the Bruins have constructed their roster might be one of the greatest teams we've seen. And their record and their point total obviously speaks to that. But yeah, Philip Gustafson is right up at the top of the list when it comes to just goaltending. And, it's just like watching what he does night in, night out. It used to be surprising. Now I don't think it is anymore. He's so calm in the crease. And you almost have, a 1 and a 1A, which I don't think a lot of people in Minnesota thought the Wild had at the beginning of the year. I think everyone thought it's, Fleury's the starter and Gustafson's the backup, and Jesse didn't even think Gustafson was good enough to be a backup. So
I said he'd be fine. He will fill a hole. It'll be fine. I don't know why that's so egregious of me to think.
It's just funny in hindsight because you were, like you had mentioned, taking your words or Dane's words very forthcoming.
I'll eat the crow. That's fine.
You have apologized.
Saying,
You have. You've owned it.
I called it when Kaapo Kähkönen was going to get traded. I never thought Cam Talbot was that good, and I still stand by both of those things, and I'm correct.
Yeah, call it like you see it. But I mean, credit to you. I mean, you're eating your words, and credit to Gus. He's making you. So
exactly.
It's not a fluke anymore. Like
It's
he's been good for 2-3 months. So.
Quick plug: we got Philip Gustafson on the podcast next week. Be sure to check out that new episode.
Dane's very nice.
I know.
You're gonna be honest with him?
I was very honest with him. Him and I bond over cheese, so really we have a very deep, good friendship. He loves Swedish cheese, halloumi. Him and I, it's very good cheese.
He has 2 dogs, so I mean, obviously he's a favorite of mine.
We're
with that
just in
alone.
general. Yeah, we're not going to give away the entire interview again. Check that out on Monday on all of our Bar Down Beauty socials, wherever you listen to Bar Down Beauties. Dane, before we let you go, before we go check in on the Zephyr game as well, which is very near and dear to my heart, Go Zeffs. Minnesota Wild currently, just obviously, like you said, in the playoff picture, no doubts, no bubble situation really. Where do you think they finish now with the way that they are playing? I mean, again, there's still a lot of things that could happen with the injuries, with guys maybe coming in and out. How do you think they finish now in the Central? And are you surprised by where they will finish in the Central?
Yeah, I guess we got to figure out. We got to get through this road trip and see how they look without Kirill. But like I talked about earlier, like their schedule it sets up really nicely for them to kind of keep their head above water. They were tied. The game that Kirill went down was the day that they tied Dallas for first in the Central. I think just by losing your best player, you're not going to win the Central now. I think Dallas is probably going to run away from you. I think Colorado could probably catch you. But I do think the Wild could finish above that, in the top 3 of the Central and not drop down to a wild card spot. Either way, they're making the playoffs. And I think no matter what happens, this team, as it's currently constructed, as it's playing, it is more equipped for the playoffs than last year's team. Last year's team, franchise record, 113 points, like putting up goals left and right. But they didn't play like a very style of hockey conducive to winning in the playoffs. It was like, oh, we'll fall behind and we'll just come back. We'll pull the goalie, score twice. That doesn't work in the playoffs, and it didn't work against St. Louis. They're defending hard in their own zone. They're really responsible. They're getting good goaltending. And if Kirill's back, obviously if Kirill's not back, this team cannot win the first round. But I think if he's back by the first round of the playoffs, by game 1 of the first round, I think they're in a better spot this year than they were last year, even if they don't finish with as many points.
Absolutely true. Again, this is Dane Mizutani from the Pioneer Press, my favorite print publication. He's also covering the Minnesota Vikings. Bye-bye, Adam Thielen. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
We'll catch up with Dane in a little bit here. We actually have some more guests coming up and joining us, so stay tuned. We're going to take a very quick break while we equip them. Thanks, Dane, so much for joining us. Enjoy the Let's Play Hockey Expo.
Oh, yeah. I'll go walk around.
Yeah.